everyone, it's Carly here and you're listening to episode 15 of the Made for More podcast. And right now, today is our first day out of lockdown. Oh my goodness, I feel free. It feels so good. Even though I know lots of the country are still in lockdown, I'm really sorry if that's you and I've just rubbed it in your face with my smug announcement. But anyone who is out of lockdown and you have a little bit more freedom than you did yesterday, how good does it feel? So I went into town. I've never been so excited to go into Basingstoke town centre as I was today. Went into town, me and my little boy Frankie sat and had a little M&S lunch and it was just joyous. It was so nice. And do you know what? One good thing to come out of this whole thing that's happened is you really do appreciate the tiny simple things, and just going and, you know, having that little lunch, just me and my little man, was just like amazing. I absolutely loved it. And I also went shopping and invested in loads of loungewear, because although we are now out of lockdown and, you know, we have a bit more freedom, this whole thing this year has completely pivoted my business. It was always an online business anyway, but now it is 100% online. So I've come to terms with the fact that I'm going to be in my house most of the time in loungewear, and do you know what? I'm down for it. I'm totally down for it. That is my ideal kind of work day, to be honest. Yeah, I treated myself and got myself some nice little loungewear. What a little treat. So today, enough about me. Today, I'm going to be bringing you an amazing interview. I had the privilege of interviewing the incredible Kerry Ellis. Now, I've actually followed Kerry's career for ages because she is also a musical theatre performer. Not just any musical theatre performer. She's like the Don of musical theatre. I mean, she's been in every show, the lead in every show. She's also a recording artist. She's been on tour for years with Brian May from Queen. She's just smashing it. She has smashed that industry. And I've said this a million times, that this industry, the performing industry, is tough. It is a tough industry. And to have had a career as long as she has had in this industry is no mean feat, and the only way you can do it is by having a rock solid mindset. And obviously a lot of this podcast is about mindset. The main point of it is about mindset and business, but the reason why I really wanted to interview Kerry is that I believe the character traits that go into becoming a successful and long-standing performer are the exact same character traits that go into becoming a successful businesswoman and having a long-standing business. And that is tenacity, that's grit, that's courage, that's drive, that's ambition, it's self-motivation, it's, you know, just something about performers works really well with business. So this is why I really wanted to interview her. And also, I know a lot of my followers are also performers as well. You know, lots of performers right now are looking to they need a new direction, they need a new purpose, and they need a new focus. And I just really wanted to get Kerry on and just, you know, pick her brains about her career and kind of, you know, what it's taken to be so successful in that career, but also talk about pivoting and maybe looking at a different direction and maybe using this time as a little shake up and a little redirect and think, okay, cool, what else can I do with this time? So I'm so excited for you to hear this interview. I absolutely love Kerry. She's so down to earth. She has such a great energy, and we talked all things from motherhood to podcasting to performing to touring on a tour bus with Brian May and just living that rock star dream and all the things. So I'm so excited for you to hear this. Of course, if you are loving this podcast, please take a screenshot, add it onto your Insta stories and tag me at Carly Myers Lifestyle and at Made for More Pod, and share it with anyone that you think would find this helpful. And yeah, I'm just so excited for you to hear it. Enjoy. Amazing. Hey Kerry, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, I'm so excited to have you on. So I have followed you for ages, because one of my first big jobs out of college, I was actually in Germany doing We Will Rock You, and I understudied Meat. So your voice was in my ears for a really long time, and I would keep listening to that song over and over again, No One But You. It was in my head, and then you would do some little fancy trill and I'd be like, sod that, I'm not trying that one. So I did a down par German version of you. But yeah.
German, or did you sing it in English?
No, it was German. Babe, it was the worst thing. I remember once I was singing No One But You. In German, it's called Ganzelein. And I forgot the words halfway through. And if you forget your words in English, you can just muffle up some kind of stuff. I don't know any German words. So the only ad lib there was like a
I've done that in English and there's no excuse.
Oh God, it's the worst, isn't it? And then you turn and face the cast and they're just, their shoulders are going, laughing.
Oh God.
Oh, but I've loved your career. You've had an amazing career in musical theatre, and it's just I so respect it because I know the industry and I know how tough that industry is. And the fact that you've had such a long career in that industry as well is so, so impressive. So I'm so excited to pick your brains about all the kind of ins and outs of that. But for any of my listeners that don't know anything about you, take us back a little bit and just tell us a little bit about your background, your upbringing, and kind of how this all came about.
Yeah, well, ironically, I've been doing a book over lockdown and going literally back to as far as I can remember and talking about all those kind of early memories that I have and going right through my career until today. And it's been really kind of nice to kind of revisit it and go back through all the things that I've done before I forget them. I thought actually, been approached about autobiographies before and thought, no, I'm not ready. I'm too young. I'm not ready for that. I don't have that amazing story. But however, I thought if I don't do it now, I'm going to forget these first 40 years of everything that's happened. So it's actually been really nice to go over it and talk about, how it started for me and just a local kind of dance school. And I think it was probably, being a parent now, and I'm sure you're starting to, discover the same, is you start to think completely differently. It's not as calculated as you perhaps think it is. And I went to like local dance classes, but probably because my parents just wanted me to do something out of school, as I do for my boys. They've tried a bit of theatre and they do football, but only to get them doing something and to be interactive. And I don't know if it was a conscious thing of my parents or not. And I think they just wanted me to be social. And thank God they did, because I took a kind of liking to these dance classes that I was going to. And I kind of just fell in love with doing things like local pantomimes and school shows. And I think I did something at the Wolsey Theatre when I was younger. And I just loved it. And then a natural progression for me was to go to drama school. My dance teacher went to Lane Theatre Arts, and that's how we found out about that. And I auditioned for there and I got in. I didn't get into Dorian Bird, which was another college I auditioned for. And then as soon as I came out of college, I did a show called Magic of the Musicals, which was a crazy kind of tour, like a couple of months tour, different nights in different venues, with Marty Webb and Dave Willits, which was amazing. It was proper. It's kind of me earning my stripes, straight away out of college, which was great back then. You had to do things to earn your equity card, which you had to do a lot of jobs and rack up so many amount of points to get your equity card. Whereas now you can just go straight into a show, and you couldn't be in a West End show without this equity card. So that was kind of a means to an end for me. And then I did that. I then did a ship for a year, sailed around the Caribbean doing shows and stuff, which was amazing. And then when I came back from there, I then got into My Fair Lady, and then it went show to show to show. And fortunately, and again, I writing this book and looking back on, I went big show to big show to big show, and I didn't quite realise it at the time. I did My Fair Lady, then We Will Rock You, then Saigon, then Les Mis, then Wicked. And at the time, it just was what was happening. But now I look back on it and go, oh my God, it was hit show after hit show. And that's incredible. And I kind of, pat myself on the back now. But at the time, I didn't at all. I was just like, right, what's next? What's happening? What am I doing? Where am I going? And then since then, it's been shows, music, touring, podcasts, radio, voiceovers, everything really. And I like the variety now. I think the variety gives me perspective, and I enjoy doing something different every day.
So good. I love you talking about earning your stripes as well, because that's, I think lots of people try and skip that bit, don't they? Lots of people want to go from like, this is what I want to do, I just want to get to the final bit straight away, but you do have to earn your stripes.
You need to have kind of grafted in some way. I think there's a lot, because of the celebrity culture that we have, and because of the reality culture that we have, especially young people, they see that as a fast route. And now also you've got social media, which is a completely other beast that, you know, even I'm still learning and getting to grips with, but people become social media stars without even realizing what they're doing sometimes. And I think it's just a different time now, and it's a different, I don't know, expectation of how you can get into an industry. But I do think if you have put the work in and you've experienced lots and had a lot of education and you know, tried out different things, that you will last and you will have longevity, and you'll survive things like a pandemic, because you'll be resilient and learn how to navigate your way around it. And performers especially are usually, you know, we're in and out of work, and you learn how to create another avenue when you're not doing a big show, or you know, how to survive an industry.
Yeah, totally. I think, yeah, performers for sure they're so good at adapting. They're so like, I mean, you get that all the time, don't you? You might be like understudy for something, and then you get thrown on last minute, or like something will change. You're like, well, I need to change it. So yeah, we are so good at adapting. And I think definitely something that performers all have in common is, and you mentioned it, resilience and just that kind of mental toughness. So do you think you were always brought up with that kind of mentality where you just got this grip about you, or have you had to really learn that as you've gone along?
I think I was fortunate to be I was very supported as a youngster. You know, I had a very good upbringing. You know, I had working parents. We didn't have loads of money, but we were stable. I lived in the country. I had an older brother, so I had that kind of sibling rivalry. And I think that I just had that confidence of that backing and that support from an early age, and have always had that since. So I think that massively stood me in good stead. I don't know if you can learn resilience, or you just kind of have it in you, because for me, it's about a mindset and about, you know, we're told no all the time in this industry, and I don't think people quite realize how much. And I think the earlier you realize that it's not personal, and it's not about how, you know, if somebody likes you as a person, it's bigger than that. It's about whether you fit in, whether you quite match up to the other people. There's so many different factors in it. And I think the quicker you can almost disconnect yourself emotionally from it, the quicker you can deal with it. And again, the more longevity you'll have, because you'll be like, well, I'm not right for that, and that's fine. It's not my time. I'm onwards to the next thing.
It's so true. And I think, you know, in what I do and performing, there's a real common thing there, which is where you hear no a lot. And something that I'm always trying to tell people is exactly what you said. You know, it's not personal, and don't take it personally. And I definitely think some of the most successful people in what I do are also performers. And I know it's because of that. It's because of they're fine hearing no, and they just move on to the next one.
Yeah, and I think, again, it's being a parent, and I think you suddenly realise how important the arts are. And not necessarily if people, you know, not everyone doesn't have to go on and be on the stage, but I think early on in children's development, for them to have drama classes and PE classes, and learn how to interact, how to be around other people, and how to suddenly be socially confident is massive. And I think that's why performers grow up to be confident social people. And I don't think you can teach people how to be socially confident. You have to kind of experience it, be put in a room you have to go through that kind of terrifying moment of being put in a room with loads of people that you don't know, and by the end of the day, you know, you're like best friends. And I think it's sad that nowadays that's taken out of schools. It's the first thing to go. And for me, especially now, everyone's going on about mental health. Well, if you don't allow people to discover how to interact and how to be social, then of course they're going to struggle later on, and you're not giving them the tools or the time to discover how to do that. And that's why I think performers go on to do various, brilliantly social jobs, because they have those skill sets and they can talk to people. And so many people now can't talk to people, especially with phones. They can't have a conversation.
It is so true. Yeah. And I think the social skills, I think performing teaches you so much stuff, doesn't it? It teaches you a lot of discipline as well. Teaches you, like having a goal and keep working for it, even when you're not seeing any results. I mean, I know that there's so many performers, and perhaps you had this earlier on in your career where you can go for so many auditions and literally not get it over and over and over again.
It still happens. People ask me now, do you still have to audition? I'm like, God, I wish I didn't have to, but yeah, still have to.
To be fair, that's the thing about that industry, isn't it, though? It kind of doesn't matter how long you've been in the industry. It's relentless, isn't it? You just have to keep starting again day one.
Yeah, it is tough. Although some of it I don't mind. Like I did an audition process way before lockdown, and I was getting annoyed about it because I was like, come on, does 25 years of a CV not speak for anything? And I'm going through these rounds, I'm getting annoyed. However, I really actually enjoyed the challenge, and I kind of liked that I was suddenly on an even playing field, because if I had got the job, I didn't get it. I was like between the last kind of couple of people, but if I had got it, I'd have felt like I was meant to be there and I'd earned the role. Whereas I can imagine, I mean, I've talked about lots of people on my podcast about it, and lots of celebrities that are quite aware of when they're cast for who they are and what they can bring to the table, and not necessarily being the complete best person for the job. So I think for me, it feels like I've earned it. If I go through that process, I feel like I should be there,
Oh, that's so good to know. I love that way of looking at things, because you can get frustrated at it, can't you? And just think, why am I doing this? And your ego can definitely, but I mean, like, the ego can definitely come in sometimes and be like, but then I think it's amazing to have that outlook on it and be like, yeah, I've totally earned my place here.
Yeah, and also shows it is a team effort. You can't put a show on your own. You need everybody, so it has to be that kind of team effort. And I think going through that process puts you all, in it together. That you've all fought to get there, and you're proud to be there, and then you've got something to work to. But yeah, it's still tough. I still find it hard. I still don't like doing it, but it's part of it.
Oh, I know it is part of it for sure. And you touched earlier a second ago saying about facing like terrifying situations. And I've never felt situations so terrifying as I have in, like auditions or big shows or stuff like that. Now, you've done some crazy stuff. You've like sung the national anthem at Wembley. You've done like massive arenas of like thousands of people. I imagine you still get nervous. Do you have a way that you get over that?
Well, ironically, I would be more nervous doing what you do when you speak to lots of people in like seminars and meetings, when you have to just talk to lots of people. That would freak me out a lot more than singing in front of thousands, because I can do that. I know how to do that. More recently, I guess, when I've been doing, well, in the last maybe 10 years, when I've done my own shows and I've had to learn how to interact and talk and be myself, has been a very different thing, which I've got used to, and I quite enjoy that now. But to have to stand up and talk to people about something that's not just me and what I'm doing, I would find incredibly difficult. And that's such a skill. I mean, I guess your performer skill kicks in as well when you're doing that, but that's
it does. But I think it's like, I think you grow to become passionate about it, though. Do you know? So like and when you like we go back and say, when you have earned your stripes, you feel confident in that moment. And I don't speak the way that I do doing my trainings now like it's my first time. The first time I did it, I was absolutely horrendous, but every time I've done it so often now that you kind of think, no, I deserve to be here now, and I know what I'm talking about. But it's definitely a process that gets you there.
Yeah, no, yeah, it is. And I mean, nerves are like anything. I think you just get used to them. It's not that you learn how to deal with them. I think you just get used to that feeling. You're like, okay, I'm nervous, but that's okay. And for me, I quite enjoy the fact that I get nervous, because I think it means that I care, I'm passionate, I want to do a good job, regardless of how big or small the the gig is or the event is, I still get that kind of thing in your stomach before you go on, because you care. You want, it doesn't matter if there's 20 people in the room or, 2,000 people in the room, you still have the same element of, I want to be the best that I can now. So you still have those nerves, and I kind of like it. I like the adrenaline. I like that kind of feeling of not quite knowing what's going to happen. I think that's what's been massive about lockdown, is just not having that adrenaline, not having that performance related situation. And I think a lot of performers have struggled, and it's why their mental health is struggling, because they're not getting rid of that release to perform, that that adrenaline that we all have. And a lot of them are super physical. If they're not on stage singing and dancing, they're super fit, super active. And if they can't do that either, I mean, my heart goes out to them. It really does, because it's a real difficult time.
It really is. I mean, the performing industry is probably one of the worst hit industries, I think. I mean, it's been absolutely slapped in the face, hasn't it? It's so bad. And just like the lack of respect for what the performers put into it is so disheartening. And yeah, I just feel absolutely gutted for all the performers. And I just think if only you knew like what they go through on a daily basis to be where they are in their career.
It's so difficult. And to have had, my husband works in football, he coaches, and we're in obviously our second lockdown, and they were closed down, and now they can train again. And I think it's Premier League football can train and can play. And then you kind of sit and think, well, okay, I get that they bring lots of money in. I get that they're outside. I get all that. But what makes Premier League football more important than show business? Where do we draw the line? Why does that? I mean, obviously, and it's money. It's all about money. And theatre brings so much revenue into the UK, and it's just not being supported. And I'm so saddened by it, that it does give you a bit of a, you kind of think, well, how do you value us? You've got government saying retrain, you've got government saying, you're not viable. And it's like, well, hang on a minute. We're so important that we provide escapism for people. We provide those weekends where people go down to London. They go, it's a family moment. They get together. We provide so much that it's frightening that they're just not supporting us.
It really is. I totally feel it. So what I really like about you is that you've just pivoted. So like, this is hit, and in true performer fashion, you've like, okay, adapt, change, pivot. How are we going to make something out of this? And you've started your podcast, which is amazing. So it's Keep Calm and Carry On. I absolutely love the title. So how's that process been for you?
Amazing. Well, I did one before lockdown. I was part of Encore Radio, and I met a guy called Jamie Crick, who's an amazing radio presenter, does a lot for Jazz FM and Smooth, and he's brilliant. And he got me on board to do a presenter slot for Encore Radio, and I did that for about 2 years, and I just loved it. Then when Encore closed down, we did a podcast. There was about 3 presenters, and we did Acting Up. And I was kind of a panelist, a regular panelist, and we talked to various performers, and I just loved it. And I thought one day I'll do my own one, because I think I could do this. And then obviously, life and jobs get in the way. I was uber busy, and to actually fit a podcast in when you're working is quite tricky. But obviously when the lockdown hit, I thought, actually, this is the perfect time. One, because I wanted to speak to people in the industry that I knew or that I'd worked with at some point, to talk about the industry and be positive about, put something positive out there that would inspire young people, especially at this time, talk about their highlights and, lowlights, times that they've gone through, and just kind of open a door to perhaps younger performers and everyone else, to give them a bit of entertainment in this crazy time. And it just took off. We're in season 2 now, and I've really enjoyed, and for me personally, I've enjoyed channeling that energy and having a focus for me to have purpose, because we just had no purpose. I was going nowhere. I wasn't doing anything. So I needed to have this focus. So to have something that was coming out weekly, that I had to organise, I had to, talk to people, get it done, get it recorded, get it out there, was brilliant. And I've come a bit obsessed with it. I'm just loving it. We've almost finished season 2 recording, and who knows what's going to happen. I've loved taking advantage of the time.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. I love listening to it. I love the guests you get on there as well. And it's just so interesting. I feel like it takes me back to my old life a little bit, hearing about the performing world. But I love it. I love how open it is. And it's such an amazing listen.
I think people open up in podcasts. It just feels quite a friendly place to have a chat. And I think because we're all doing it over Zoom, you can see somebody, you're in the comfort of your own home. It's like half an hour out of your day where you can just sit and chat to somebody. I think people want to talk at the moment, and there's no judgment. It's not like I'm someone from the press and trying to get a scoop out of someone. I'm just having a chat, as you are. And I think people quite enjoy that. And me being on the other side for a change has been lovely to ask questions that I wanted to talk about, as opposed to answering stuff that you kind of predict a lot of the time. How was the green makeup? How was working with Brian, which is great, but to be on the other side and ask questions to people that I want to ask that perhaps aren't your regular standard questions that they expect has been lovely. It's been really nice.
Oh, I love that. I just love picking your brains. I love knowing all the nitty gritty stuff, of why you did this and how you did this. And I love it. So you have got 2 boys. I was going to say baby boys, but they're not boys, are they? They're older now. So how old are they now? 7 and 5?
7 and, well, my youngest is about to turn 5 in lockdown. They both had lockdown birthdays.
So I imagine that having the career that you've got, a hugely successful career, and for anyone performing thinking, I'm going to have a baby, that's quite a scary thought, really, because you're kind of thinking, what is this going to do for my career? I've built years building it up. How was that moment?
Well, it wasn't planned. Neither of them were particularly planned. I mean, I was never particularly like a maternal person going, I desperately want kids. I wasn't that person. I loved my job. I still love my job. And that was who I was. And I always kind of thought, I'd love to have kids, but it was in the back of my mind. And then I met my husband, and I then moved to New York for 6 months, like about 6 weeks after I'd met him. And I was like, oh, well, it'll make or break, not really that fast. And anyway, we got through that 6 months, and he came out all the time. And actually I thought, oh, things are a bit different now. Actually, I think I would like to have kids with you. And I think we'd be a great team. So we didn't really particularly plan it. But then obviously Alfie came along. And I didn't really have a plan. I just thought, well, I'll just deal with it and see what happens. And for me, there was no question that I would stop working or not take it back up once I'd had him. I mean, I worked literally right up until 2 weeks before with Alfie, doing concerts and touring and stuff. And I think I was in a position then where I could still perform. I was doing concerts, and it was okay for me to be pregnant. I think it's difficult when people are in shows.
I mean, God knows how you sang though, like that far pregnant. I couldn't even breathe or talk.
But I think it's because I didn't stop. I think if I'd have stopped at a certain point, then your body changes and your muscles change. But because I didn't stop, I was just singing all the time. And then I took about, I don't know, I had about 6 weeks from the 2 weeks. Then I had him. Then I had another 4 weeks. And then I went back. And I think because I didn't have that long out, that I was just ready to go. My stamina wasn't there when I went back, just first of all. But it hadn't really gone. I hadn't lost my voice or changed it too much, so it wasn't too bad. And I think I was in a position where I was fortunate I was touring with Brian at the time, so I could take them with me on tour. They were in their car seats and they were on tour buses. But had I not been with Brian doing our thing, I think it would have been a different situation. But because I was just doing me, singing our songs and touring, it wasn't a problem. And he was amazing. He was so accommodating and loved the boys. I toured after both of them and loved the boys being around. And he was just so embracing of them being there, and it was, I'm very fortunate and very grateful that he did that for me, because I think it just bridged that gap of not stopping. And I think the danger with performers is that, they might work and work and work, and then then decide to have a baby, because our generation tends to have them later, and then have that small time out, and then find it really difficult to find their way back in. So I think it is tough, but also there's ways around it. There is other things to do. There's voiceovers and commercials and podcasts, and there's other things to do, but you just have to be open to finding them and to doing them.
Yeah, totally. I mean, for anyone who doesn't know who Brian is, it's Brian May.
Yeah, sorry.
No, you're all good. I'm just laughing, like, Brian.
No,
I make B-man. But just how funny that your kids are just like rocking around on a tour bus with Brian May. It's so funny. I love it.
It's funny now when they see him like on the telly, and they're like, "Oh, it's Uncle Brian." I mean, they have no clue, but they just, if they see a picture or they see him on the telly, it's just Uncle Brian to them. They don't see it any differently.
He's so nice. I met him once when we did Rock You, and he's so lovely. I mean, doing like the final show, and they come on and they do the like the show must go on, or like Brian comes on and does the bow rap solo. I'm like, you just stood there and you're like, what is life right now? This is so cool. I can't even imagine what you've experienced. Like, you must have actually felt like a rock star at times.
Well, in Rock You we did, because I mean, we were all really young. We were all kind of early 20s. We were working at the Dominion, working on this brand new show, hanging out with Queen and Ben Elton and Arlene Phillips. And so it was very exciting. And and also performing to packed audiences at the Dominion, which is like over 2,000 seater, and all of them on their feet at the end of the show, singing those songs. You did feel like a rock star. We were doing loads of telly. We were doing lots of performances, Party in the Park. We did the Queen's Jubilee. So there was lots of stuff going on. So we did feel like rock stars. It was an amazing time. And then since then, I guess for me with Brian, it's been kind of a gradual thing. I mean, it took 10 years for our first album to come out, because it just took we took a long time kind of discovering what should be my first album and trying different things out. And he's almost been a little bit like a guardian angel throughout my whole career, because I met him so early on that he has just been that, watching over me and giving me little bits of advice here and there, and being able to bounce things off him that even he's not involved in, just to get a bit of advice. And he's been amazing. It just feels like part of the family, really. And my whole family feel like that. He's knows my mum and dad, knows my stepmom and my stepdad and my brother, and my husband. He's just part of the family, which is lovely.
Ah, Uncle Brian.
Uncle Brian.
What a cutie. So for anyone listening to this that is mega inspired by the fact that you're smashing your own career goals and stuff like that, but also you're building a full-on family, what would your advice be to someone that's thinking they want to do too, but think that maybe they can't?
Well, for me, there was never any question, because I'm so passionate about what I do that, for me, I'm not me without what I do. And lockdown was quite an eye-opener for that, because suddenly it was almost taken away, and I had to create it in some way, because I thought I'm not the best version of me when I'm not doing what I love doing. And I think for my kids, it's really important for them to see driven parents, but driven parents in as such that they love their jobs. We love being a family, and we're a great team, and we have the best time. And that's been the bonus of lockdown. We've had that time together. But for me, it's important for them to see, one, me working and supporting, a lifestyle, and to love what I do, and to not be in a job that I hate and that I'm resentful of. So for me, there's just no question about it. I think you can do both. And especially in this day and age, we don't have to be stereotypical stay-at-home mums and look after the kids. There is other options, and there's so many ways to make that happen. So many people start up businesses on social media. They just start something small, and then you suddenly see these amazing people just that have that are parents as well, and they have these amazing businesses that they've just started on them by themselves, and it's accessible. And if you believe in it enough, it can happen. And I think it brings so much more to your life than if you didn't.
100%. I literally couldn't agree more. I harp on about this all the time on my podcast, and I definitely agree that when you are your best as a mum, then you are the best mum, because you're in your best state.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you have to have, for me, it's important to have other things outside of the home. For me and my husband, it's really good, because if we go off and do other things, we've got things to talk about. We've got things that we're excited to share together. Whereas if he was going off doing his job and I wasn't doing my job, he'd come home and I'd be talking about home and the kids, and that's a whole job in itself. And I'm not also downing anybody that's a stay-at-home parent, because it's the hardest thing in the world. And for me, going off to work is almost like a relief. I get a bit of time that is just for myself, and to concentrate on one thing and not be thinking which child's going to kill themselves first, damage control the whole time, which is exhausting. But I think it's healthy for us to have our different interests and bring that home. I think that's important.
Yeah, definitely. I think what I definitely take from you is that whenever something hits, instead of thinking of all the stuff that you can't do, you just pivot and say, okay, cool, what can I do? And I think for any, especially performers listening to this, but anyone really who's kind of struggling with lockdown and in that place of like, I can't do this anymore and this isn't happening, and they've lost so much, just trying to intentionally switch your mindset and saying, okay, but what can I do? What are my options? How can I get that, adrenaline rush or that dopamine hit that I used to get on stage? How can I channel that? So is there anything that you've learned from lockdown that has changed something for you, and you kind of thought, okay, I'm changing this?
Yes and no. Initially, I learned that it was good for us to slow down for a bit, because I was here, there and everywhere. My life was 100 miles an hour, and we did have time for the family and we did make time for each other, but it was rare for us to like sit down and have dinner together. That was a rarity. We would always have breakfast together, but I could be away for a week, or I could be away for a couple of nights, or, my husband works sometimes nights and weekends. So we're always like, we're like spaghetti junction, we're in and out and there's always stuff going on. So we've enjoyed slowing down for a bit. I can't say that we won't go back to how we were, because we kind of thrived like that. We thrived with the change and the fast pace of our lives. And it worked for us as a family. The boys have obviously loved us being at home, and we also try and make sure that we have that time together. I think personally, I think I struggle with it all the time, but I try and be as physical as I can. I love my yoga. I love going to the gym. I love kind of going to HIIT classes and stuff. And having that taken away through lockdown has been really difficult, because I'm not the best at self-motivating at home to do a workout or whatever. But we have tried to go out on our bikes and go out for walks. And I think I've learned to be adaptable with that, because I'm quite easy to get into a routine with physical fitness, because I know what works and I know how to sustain not putting on loads of weight. But if that's been taken away, which it has been recently, I have to really make myself go and do stuff, because I find that really difficult. If you're performing, it just takes care of itself. You're on that fast-paced lifestyle, so it's okay. But yeah, lockdown, baking and drinking and not doing so much exercise has been tricky.
Yeah, there's dark times for a while, isn't it? I feel like you go through the lockdown cycle of when you're like, yeah, I'm on it, and then you're like, sod it, I'm just going to eat all the custard creams, and then you're in damage control and you're like, okay, I need to get a Peloton immediately.
Yeah, and the wine, it's just, I'm not a massive drinker at all, but it's just, I remember the first lockdown, every time Boris came on the telly, we were like, right, let's have a glass of wine. I think it was to take the edge off of what news he was going to bring. how much more he's going to damage my industry.
The wine is a big thing. I remember getting on Zoom calls at one point. I'd get on with like a Zoom call, a big training thing, and then I'd be like, maybe I'll just have a little wine while I'm on my Zoom call, and then a little wine. Then I'd pour the wine into a mug so no one knew that I was drinking a wine. It's dark times. Then that's when you know you got a problem, when you're trying to disguise your wine in a mug.
Oh, I mean, it has been interesting and funny, but hopefully we're not too far to come out of it. I mean, there's positive things coming out with tests and bits and pieces, but hopefully we'll have a little bit of a Christmas, and then we'll start, getting out of this craziness, because I think everybody's so done with it. They're so ready.
I think there has been some beautiful things come out of it for sure, though. I mean, your podcast has come out of it. My podcast has come out of it. That's two beautiful things right there. And then if it then sends you down the route of writing a book, and, just, I think for everyone, I think if you can shift your mindset and think, okay, cool, what good has come out of this? I definitely think people spending more time with those that they love is, important, and just having more gratitude for the simpler things.
And enjoying simple things as well, enjoying things like, going for a walk with your family. At one point when all the parks were closed, we were forced to just do those kind of simple things.
Yeah, I think there are some beautiful things to come out of it for sure. Kerry, I've loved talking to you. I've got a couple of last 3 questions that I want to ask you that I ask absolutely everyone. Okay, so the first one is, what does success look like to you?
Success is, I think, sustaining a career and a lifestyle, but for me it's about a balance, and about being happy, having a passion, and being happy and making it work for you. Money comes and goes, and highs and lows come and go, but it's about sustaining the happiness and the joy and longevity, I think.
It is so true. I agree. Secondly is, what is your favourite book or podcast recommendation?
Well, obviously your podcast is my new favourite. I can't wait to listen to all of them. I'm a massive fan of Fern Cotton's Happy Place. Mm-hmm. It's what got me hooked on podcasts in the first place. Actually, a friend of mine, Rhiannon Lambert, who does Rhitrition, and Alice Living, they're both friends, and they're both really good, positive. One does fitness and one does nutrition, and their podcasts are amazing. They got my into podcasts, I guess. But I just love them. We love them, listening to them before we go to sleep. We listen to Ricky Gervais. We listen to my husband does lots of football ones, obviously, which are great, make me go to sleep. No, but Fern Cotton's probably my best one at the moment. I think she's fantastic, and her Happy Place is great.
Oh yeah, I love her. Hasn't she got an album out as well? It's like a Happy Place album or
she
something.
She has. I think it's all inspired by her Happy Place. I mean, it's the whole thing. She does festivals and all sorts. I think it's brilliant. It's really good.
So good. I love that is becoming a message that people are like actively trying to spread. It's so powerful. And with the news and that kind of like spread of negativity, we need that, counteraction. And then lastly, who is your biggest inspiration?
Ooh, that's good. Well, I'm inspired to be driven for my family. In those times when it is tough and it is difficult, you've got to do it because of them. I have to get up, and I have to be resilient, and I have to look for a new job, or I have to create a new environment, or book onto another tour, or whatever it is. So they inspire me to do that. And I guess, my dad's always been a massive support for me. I mean, they both have. My mum was very much early on, but he's always been that kind of. He's always been there, and always been like somebody to lean on if I need to. But he's always kind of just been that kind of support in the background. So I guess him to a degree. Brian's a massive support, has been for 20 odd years. He's very inspiring. He's very always looking for, the best quality thing to do. He always advises me quite well. And probably my husband, he probably has to deal with the most of it, the bad times. He has to deal with, me being up and down, and he does it quite well. So yeah, it's probably my close friends and family that inspire me the most.
Oh, that's lush. So if someone wants to binge out on all things Kerry Ellis, where can they find you?
Probably just my website, kerryellis.com, but also my Instagram, just Kerry Ellis 79, I think, because I couldn't get Kerry Ellis, is where I kind of do my day-to-day. This is what I'm doing. This is what's going on. But yeah, that's me.
I love it. I see you on your Instagram in your in that black sparkly cat suit, and I'm like, bam, she's rocking that cat suit. It's such a good one.
Another life. I lead these two lives. You know, my husband says to me, I get home Kerry with like no makeup in my sport gear, and then I do like show Kerry, which is like hair, makeup, outfits. It's like, yeah,
good though. You got to have that contrast though. You need to have the downtime for sure.
You do massively.
Amazing. Kerry, I've absolutely loved talking to you. You've given so much, and I think just your like resilience and your mindset, and just the fact that you are such a powerhouse is so inspiring. And I know that all of my listeners would have taken so much from that. So I so appreciate you taking the time to do this, and I'm so excited for your book. I'm excited for your podcast, all of it.
Thank you for having me on. It's been lovely to talk to you, and I'm going to go back listen to all of your stuff that you've done on here so far.
Oh yeah, do it. Amazing. Thank you so much, Kerry.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Ah, how good was that? I just love her energy. I just love the way she is, and she's so down to earth despite having a massive career. And she's just a little powerhouse. So if you are loving this podcast, and I hear all your feedback, I absolutely love all your feedback. It really does mean the world to me. It would mean so much to me if you would head over to Apple Podcasts and leave me a 5-star review. This really does make such a massive difference in the world of podcasting and kind of the people that I'm able to interview and how much I'm able to get out to you. So head over to there and leave me a 5-star review, and as a thank you, every single month I'm going to be giving a giveaway. So if you take a screenshot of the review, email me at admin@carlymyers.com with that screenshot and let me know that you've done it, then I will put your name into a draw to win a one-to-one coaching call, which I will be giving away every single month. I'm so excited to connect with you on a one-to-one basis. It's one of my favorite things to do, and I really hope I get the opportunity to speak to you. Thanks so much, guys. I'm absolutely loving bringing these podcasts to you, and I'm so glad that you're enjoying them too. See you next week. Bye.